Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Product Uncensored show. We are at episode 36 today, and I am still your host, Colin Pell. If you are new, the standard, let's go through the three things that you need to know about the show. First is our videos are on YouTube, and if you are watching it right now, you know the drill, right? Yes, the few things that we need you to help us with. First one is click on that subscribe button, and then of course you don't just stop there, right? You need to smash that notification bell so that you get notified, and I get discovered. So win-win. Secondly, podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms. So I'm just going to show up here. Yeah. And of course, as usual, follow over there. And finally, if you want to support this show, purely voluntary, there'll be a link in the description where you can for the cost of a coffee, you can support this show purely voluntary. If you don't want to, it's okay. Just keep watching and keep listening. So I'm not very greedy. So I'm just hoping that all of you who are watching and listening, you can do 2 out of the 3 things that I've just mentioned there. And if you've been watching from day 1 and you haven't done 2 out of these 3 things, I know where you live. All right. Okay. Now on to our guest. Our guest today is a Malaysian who is based out of Singapore. Yes, very, very touchy issue. Yes, we will go there too. He cut his product management teeth in organizations such as Seek Asia, iCar Asia, StoreHub, and F-Secure, to name a few. And he is currently the Director of Product Management at Ninja Van. His name is Eric Wang. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Hey, Colin. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing. And again, we had to move this a little bit because of timing clashes and all that. So really appreciate you being very accommodating to move the timings and dates around. So welcome to the show. So I wanted to start off with something very interesting for me, right? So your name is Eric Wang. And just before we started recording, just asking how to pronounce it properly, whether it was Wang or Wang, right? So for you, right, if someone were to call you Eric Wang, right, would you go and correct them and tell you, no, it's actually Wang? Or do you just, okay, this guy doesn't know how to pronounce Asian surnames?
Yeah, actually don't bother. Like most of the times, those that don't pronounce properly are not Malaysian because, Malaysian know the word Wang as Wang, right? It's money in Malaysia, which also gave me a lot of problems when I was in high school. But, let's not go there. So most of the times, my surname is not really widely used anyway. Most people call me Eric. So I don't really bother to correct them. It's fine.
No biggie lah.
Yeah, I've heard other names get butchered worse. So I'm like, close enough,
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, so maybe we'll jump straight into things, right? So the usual shtick is, tell us more about your story about how you got into product management.
So I think like most people around my age group, which is a bit sensitive, I guess, most people from our age, they don't really choose product management, right? I think most of us say that we fell into product management accidentally, kind of thing. I started off in my first job, actually. I worked for this company that did internet streaming on mobile, and this was 13 years ago, where phones were still the most fancy phone you had was your Nokia, right? And at the time, the first service that it was launched on was on Digi, and at that time, Digi had only Edge. If you know Edge as a mobile network, right? Not even 3G. So the quality was really shit. By the way, can I curse on the show?
Yes. No problem. It is an uncensored show. It is all
great. Yeah, so it was really bad. And the screens were small. And to access the whole platform was over. I don't really remember this thing called WAP, the Web Access Protocol or something. And it was a really shitty experience. So it was way ahead of its time. And nobody liked it at all. So safe to say, the service didn't really survive. And the company actually tanked. So I was in that startup and it tanked. I moved to another company, which was my first real product management company. It was a real product team in a way. But they practice extreme waterfall, right? So it was releases once every 6 months. It was Windows-based communication software. the product manager would write a PRD that was like easily over 10 pages long. We would do our own mockups, put into a Word document and send over to the devs, and they would spend over 2 weeks trying to understand what we were writing before they started coding anything. So that was my first real taste. And one thing I really enjoyed coming to that role was that it was nice to see things that you sort of like envision come to life, right? I think that happens with most product managers that sort of get that sort of feeling. So after that job, I moved to F-Secure, and F-Secure, I would say, was the first real agile product company that really taught me a lot of the stuff that I sort of use today. They had really good structure. They had mentors to teach you. I think my first 2 months, I had someone that was working with me every week on certain things, trying to keep me working in the problem space, not the solution space, those kind of things. And that really added so much more color to the whole sort of profession, right, for me. And that where the passion really grew even more. And then subsequently, just carried on to my future roles after that. So it was quite a nice experience, I must say, like for myself. I'm quite lucky in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. I just taken note of the fact that you did waterfall. Product management in waterfall mode with PRDs. I definitely think I want to
dig into that.
Jump into that a little bit, because now you've got my curiosity going. But okay. Yeah. So I guess for you then, actually, you got into product management quite early, right? Because like right after your first job, the one that you said with DG streaming, and then you kind of then went into the other one, and then that was already product management, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So for you are, I guess, one of the more fortunate ones, right? Because you didn't okay lah. I don't know whether it's fortunate or not lah, but you were one of those who got in early at that time, right? So I think this is circa 2010.
Yeah, I would say yes. I think that's quite accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So 2010. Let's go back to 2010, right? What was the product management scene like in 2010? Like when you started, right? What did you know about that role, and what did you know about the scene in general? And finally, what did you know about the product management scene in Malaysia?
Honestly, I was quite oblivious to any scene at all. Like, I think at the time I was so junior that for me, it was the job, right? Coming to work, keep my head down, trying to just understand what's going on, making sure I can meet my targets and goals, kind of thing. Keeping my bosses happy. So I wasn't really aware of any sort of scene. I didn't even know like this was a profession. It was just like so what was interesting was when I got this job, right? I was trying to, because my previous company tanked, so I had to leave, of course. And I found myself being in this position where I was a journalist, right? In my previous company, I was basically doing anything for that service. I was a startup. I was the first employee, so I was doing anything at all to help the business. I even set up the office network, all those kind of things, right? So when I left the company, I was quite desperate for anything that would be interesting and be a good job for me, right? And this sort of like the job description sort of met what I felt I could do, right? In fact, so I can share, like, this company was Green Packet, Berhad, right?
Okay.
And when I initially applied for the role, it was for Packet One, which was the WiMAX network at the time.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, and for some reason, my resume got routed to Green Packet instead. So I was also a bit like surprised. I thought I applied for Packet One, but I sort of ended up there. But they were happy. The interview liked me, and then we got along, and so it just sort of happened. So to me, it was just a job. It wasn't like a thing, right? It was really just me finding something to get some money and stuff, and really just learning how to do work properly. I think like in the startup previously, like you just sort of do anything, right? So this was the first company that had a bit more structure. Of course, I shared they do waterfall, right? But like still, it was some sort of structure, right? That I could sort of learn and start to like grow my skills. So I didn't participate in any external communities or try to learn on the internet about the role. I learned primarily from my bosses, but what they told me was right. Okay, yes, what we say is right, and I shall listen to you, kind of thing. Yeah, and that's sort of how it was back then. Really didn't think that this would be a long career kind of thing. It's just this job that I'm doing right now.
Okay. So it was more of the, okay, I need a job. This
Exactly.
went through, I'm young, so you join. And then pretty much at that point in time, whatever the superior says, you're kind of like, okay, they've eaten, so sorry guys, they've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my mind went ahead of my mouth. So what I was going to say to those who are listening, right, that's a Cantonese phrase lah, where usually the older generation like to always tell the younger generation when I've eaten more salt than you've eaten rice,
Yeah.
just to show they've got more experience lah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, and also just for context, P1 was they were like what they're an ISP provider, right?
Yeah, they were a 4G internet provider, a wireless internet provider. At the time, it was considered 4G. It was the competing technology against LTE. And LTE is the one that sort of won in the end. So Packet One sort of like, I think eventually it's also converted to LTE, I think. Now you know them as, what are they called now? Like the current version of it.
Okay,
I still have some friends there, but like I can't remember the name for life of me right now.
Oh,
they were acquired by TM. I think they were acquired by TM.
They were.
Yeah.
Shucks. Okay, it'll come back to us, but yes, yeah, the minute you said it, then I totally blanked also. Okay. But yeah, we'll get back to that. But the point I was going to make is, if you are listening and P1 doesn't ring a bell to you, right? Then you can kind of figure out how much further back this is. These were the days where data was still very expensive.
Yeah.
And I think at that time also, right, the most popular phone that would come out of the scene to really create this new paradigm of mobile devices was going to be BlackBerry, isn't it? Around there.
Yeah, it's still, BlackBerry was very hot. Nokia was still very hot as well. Yeah. I think iPhones come out, what year was it?
I think iPhones were a bit later. I think 2013.
I can't remember now. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I still think back to those days where I imagine that product management would be so different, right? If it wasn't because of like two main things. I think one would be data becoming so cheap and so accessible, and also Android phones becoming a thing, because it really allowed mass adoption of mobile devices, and then coupled with the price, right? It really made a lot of sense. So
like
I'm
internet,
sorry.
Internet was definitely a big trend that pushed ahead software, right? Like suddenly making apps were super easy, like you say, with Android and even iOS. And then the web was also developing in terms of like the technology that it could offer, the different libraries and tools you could use. Suddenly it became, like, I would say, I was struggling to find a job between, even after Green Packet, I think I had a bit of trouble finding a new job. But after that, I think after F-Secure, jobs were coming to me. Like, so it was how quickly the trend sort of happened, and suddenly product management became a real thing. And I was just lucky, right, to have been sort of fall into it, in a way, and had no sort of like, I like to say that I planned strategically, I looked in the future, and this was a trend I spotted, right? That's why I wanted to do this kind of job. But no, it was just like really luck, as it seems. And my wife, it gives me a lot of shit, because like, you're lucky, okay? Please don't pretend like you're damn smart, or okay, you're just lucky you got this kind of thing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, okay, but I have to. I'll probably put some defense in on your side, because I think anyone at that time who decided to do it, you probably would have seen that there would have been some promise or some potential to the role. You may not have known where it was going. Or maybe I should phrase it as a question and ask you, like, was it the case, or was it really purely for you? Like, you really lucked out like 100%?
Honestly, I kept wanting to do it after Green Packet because I enjoyed it. I felt it was something that was interesting and fulfilling. Like I wasn't thinking, in terms of like a career thing. It was more like I'd rather do something that I can feel happy to do every day at work rather than like find something that may be super lucrative, right? But like, oh shit, I want to do this again. Like, yeah. So in a way, I guess you can say I lucked out lah. In terms of like finding something that I enjoyed, and also something that sort of panned out financially for me as well.
Of course. We're not running a charity, right? So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. But so then the question that comes out of this is, was it or when was it? At which point did you realize that you really wanted to do this as a career, as opposed to your first time going to product management was just whatever the job is, and then you take it? When did the penny drop for you?
It was definitely F-Secure. Like when I was like F-Secure was the first company that even had that product owner versus product manager kind of split, where I was actually the product owner that was working day to day with the development team, and there was product managers in Helsinki that were sort of like looking at customers and strategy and stuff, and we were more tasked to really prioritize on a product backlog level and really work out the final details with the team. And the sort of like, given that I was working with an MNC, like they had presence globally, right, and allowed me to even travel to Finland, like almost at least once a year, kind of thing. It really opened up my world. Like, holy shit, this is something that is much bigger than what I thought it was, kind of thing, and allowed me to really learn, because a lot of the we talk about agility as a mindset, right, and also product management also as a mindset kind of thing, like really trying to be customer centric, thinking about how we can solve problems for people kind of thing. Previously, it wasn't that, right? It was just building solutions, right? And this was the first company where I got that glimpse of, oh wow, like it's so much bigger than what I thought it was, and it really sucked me in, I must say. So really luckily, once again, really lucky and fortunate to have been in that environment where they had the kind of set up to support people like me who were quite clueless, and help sort of educate me in a way, right? So definitely, I would say that job helped me to open my eyes and see sort of like the role for what it really could be, and that was really amazing.
Okay. Well, since we're on that track, let's go down a little bit more, right? Because you're saying that in F-Secure, there was this PM versus PO role, right?
That's right.
And of course, today it is, well, not just today, for a while already, there's been this ongoing debates around PM and PO. And now that you are a product leader yourself, you are building the team, you get to decide the roles.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Like, do you feel like there is a place for a PM versus PO type role? Or what do you think? Like, what's the best way for product management to function, like in this day and age?
My preference is to definitely have the product manager cover both the product owner role and be on sufficiently enough on the business side, because if you split the roles up, there's too much of a gap between understanding the technology versus understanding the customers and the business, right? You know that PM circles thing, right? Like you're basically splitting it apart in a way. So it's sort of like doesn't work for me. My preference is to sort of like scope down the product manager's role to be much more narrow, but have them have proper ownership end to end, all the way from the tech all the way to the business, and sort of like have them work in that sort of vertical sufficiently. And so far, like for me, I've seen how it works well. I've seen how definitely they're very busy. Like my PMs in my current company are super busy. So like then there's a lot of teaching them time management and delegation and planning, right? So there are techniques that are out there that can help them with the time management, which I think is a better compromise compared to having split the role and have a product manager who's too clueless about the tech, or a product owner who has no idea about the customers and their needs and stuff like that.
Okay. So this is where I play the devil's advocate, right? Because by the way, I'm not saying I disagree with you. Personally, I feel the same. But I also wanted to sort of play devil's advocate here, because my question would be, but you cut your teeth, or you got your experience working in an environment where it was split, and you still thrived because of it, right? My assumption about you thriving is because you've managed to make it to where you are today. And while I think that yes, a lot of it is down to your own prerogative and really, driving for your own ambition. I also think that it is also there is some certain element of it having worked, because I think you also stayed in F-Secure for quite a while, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
they must have been doing something right. So here's where the devil advocates come,
yes.
argument comes in, is yeah, but could it work though?
Actually, when I left F-Secure at the time, I think the 1 year before I left, there was actually a transition where the product owners were trying to be transitioned to have more of a business kind of impact or sort of like kind of role as well. And they moved the product managers to become like the product leaders. So like the heads of function in a way, or heads of that sort of product area, right? The vertical or whatever. And it expanded the product owner's role to become a bit more encompassing even the business side as well, to talk to customers and stuff. I think, and having been in that role, I can tell you that a lot of frustration came where the team felt very disempowered, right? We were like sort of just being fed what to do. Sometimes we couldn't understand. And it was really demotivating to just be sort of like churning out stuff, right? And we had sessions where we could talk to the leaders and understand, but ultimately we had to trust what they were telling us and accept, that it's the truth, and just sort of carry on the work, right? But there was still this gap, especially for the few of us that were a bit more curious and really wanted, and of course at the time we were reading up about product management as well, and trying to really understand the craft better. And also then we realized, oh yeah, like this parts of the job are missing for us, and how do we get that right? So there definitely that sense of frustration that happened when I was there, especially with the more senior ones. So I think as a result, that's why the company also eventually sort of like started to involve these product owners more on the sort of in all the three circles in a way. And yeah, the shift in the sort of like organization happened as a result of the frustrations that we felt.
I see. Yeah. But okay. I guess, and I'm trying to push the envelope here, because I think this is, sometimes in product management spaces, right, we also fall into the trap of bashing stuff that we think are not cool or not nice, right? And I will get into this whole waterfall PRD discussion as well, if we have time to get there. But for me, I'm thinking about what would be the logical way to have done this at that point in time. And even now, today, I think the challenge still stands, right? So imagine you have a business in that particular market or a few markets, but your development teams are in an area that is not there. How would you then help them to get the context and everything? Now, it is usually quite hard for, you can't bring your entire development team, because that obviously not doesn't make financial sense, like business sense. So then you could get have a product manager that's based where the developers are, or you could have a product manager that's based in the market that you're in, development team that's remote, and then have them work it out that way. Or the third option is, have your PM and then have sort of a PO role. So I guess to for you right now, right? Because Ninja also works in different markets, and you would probably have that same challenge. Like, how would you then solve this problem? Like, what would be your solution of choice?
So I hate to like sound really annoying and keep on saying that I'm damn fortunate, but like honestly, I'm fortunate to be in an organization that strongly believes in being in the weeds of the problem area. The leaders have made it very clear that the expectation is for PMs to travel. In fact, like there's budget for PMs to travel at least once a quarter to any sort of country within Southeast Asia that we operate in, to sort of like speak to the local teams, speak to customers. Because I think NinjaVan as a company, right, they grew very fast, and their founders are very entrepreneurial. So they understand, they were doing the work themselves, right? And they understand the value of understanding the nuances, the local nuances, and sort of taking account for it in your plans and strategy, right? So they have a very strong, there's the strongest support, right? Our team sort of traveling and learning those things, right? And I would say this is not just not just for the product manager, even the design and the technical leaders, right, are allowed to like travel and really build relationships with the local country, and understand and meet customers if they need to, and learn in that way, right? And that really helps to have to build a much stronger team where they really understand the problem area well and can do the work properly. We've also built a user research team where they're actively, well, they don't travel as much. They normally do like Zoom calls with all the different customers that we recruit to sort of learn about the landscape, and make sure that strategically we understand sort of like all the problems in the space and where potentially are opportunities that we should sort of focus on. So yeah, like I must say that that's basically how we solve it today. Like we make sure that people, I know it's not the cheapest thing to do, but I think the sense is that it's going to be a lot more financially advantageous to us to have our team better understand the problem spaces than trying to save costs and have like someone tell us like a proxy to tell us sort of like this is sort of like what you should listen to and stuff like that, and just go based on that third party information.
Okay. So it sounds, and again, I'm just trying to go into making you see it explicitly, or rather, I'm understanding it explicitly.
Yep.
So the PM would be the one that would, have that full breadth and depth of the understanding, and then the developers can basically be anywhere lah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, one of the problems is that I'm sure everyone's feeling this same pain, right? Where engineering people or engineers, sorry, engineers, right, are the hardest people to hire for right now, right? Like there's such a in-demand group of people, that basically they can work in any company anywhere around the world now. Like there are a lot of remote policies that make this a lot more flexible. So we have engineering teams in Singapore, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, and interestingly enough, even in Palestine, we have an engineering lab. We're going to open one in Malaysia very soon, probably. And I think we're also exploring India potentially as well. So I think we're trying to optimize for where the talent is. And yeah, it could be anywhere in the hopefully anywhere in the world. And we'll probably have you travel once in a while to sort of like cross learn and share and build relationship, right? But yeah, that's sort of like what we've decided as the optimal structure, because like it's just too hard to hire everyone in Singapore anymore. So we had to sort of like put this in place. But for PMs, given that like the ratio is much smaller, I think we feel it's okay for us to spend the money to have them be able to travel and meet people face to face every once in a while.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, we've for those of you who are listening or watching, we've kind of basically melted into Eric's role in Ninja Van, but I think it was a nice, very smooth segue in. But given that is the case of how the hiring strategy is, right? How do you guys overcome the challenges of working? I guess remotely now is a bit more passe, right? Because we kind of, there are so many tools. But I think the one that I found more interesting is how do you work with varying time zones? Because that's when you not just have to work remotely, but asynchronously.
That's right.
As well. So I'm very curious to know, how do you guys make that work? How does Ninja Van make asynchronous working? Especially given that, there is not only the time lag, but there's also the information disparity. So for example, if your developer in Palestine does not understand something, right? They usually would either have to wait for the next day cycle, or they would have to, or somebody has to sacrifice their sleep or their time outside of working hours. I'm so curious to know how you guys are approaching that conundrum.
So like as you said, right, like there are a lot of tools now available that sort of make remote working a lot easier. We're heavily on Miro and Jira and GChat. We're very much bought into the Google ecosystem. So like, unfortunately, we don't have Slack. We've chosen GChat as our tool of choice.
Wow.
So a lot of these things help make the asynchronous work sort of like easier. I think also, fortunately, the sort of communication between product managers, designers, and engineers are a lot more structured nowadays, right? We have all these tools. We even have like things like Zeppelin and Sketch to like help our designers sort of like help to communicate the designs to our engineers in a very pixel perfect kind of manner, and allow us to also test and verify that those things are implemented correctly. So because I think because it's so structured nowadays, it's a lot easier for us to do these kind of things, regardless of the time zone. It's the main challenge, I would say, is relationships, right? The trade-off of having remote sort of like work is you don't have people together, and it's very natural that when people are not together, they don't build the kind of bond that you may have sitting together in the same office, or grabbing a beer downstairs kind of thing. Actually, Ninja Van as a company has this very strong principle of relationship building. Like it's been sort of like some sort of unspoken rule or a cultural thing where almost every day after 6 p.m. We have a beer tap in the office. People go downstairs to the patio area and they just grab beers and talk and drink. And people who smoke will also smoke as well. So like it is a cultural thing that's been started ever since the founders started the company, right? And that's something that they emphasize a lot. And they actively tell people, hey, why don't you go downstairs and grab a beer, reverse kind of thing. And as a result of that, I would say like a lot of people are a lot closer, right? The hypothesis there is that you're gonna work much easier with someone if you're close to them compared to like if you're just on like a very professional relationship, right? So that's the unfortunate trade-off of having remote engineering teams, right? You can't really hang out and chill with them and really talk about crap and they just have fun and really chill kind of thing. So the work works as in like it sort of like gets done. However, like the teams are not as close as we like them to be. Definitely, like the ones that are co-located definitely are closer, and that's what we believe is more optimal. But there's a trade-off that we've decided that is necessary given the constraints that we're in. But yeah, had we have a choice, we definitely prefer to have people together just to be able to create that kind of closeness and relationships.
Yeah. So, but there's also this other challenge about being remote in that collaboration is also going to be harder, right? Because like, how do you invite your engineering team, which is in a different time zone, in order to participate in either user research or, the planning side of things? Because then essentially, it not to disparage any of the efforts that are going in this direction, but would it be more like then the people who are not co-located suffer in the sense that they have the more hand-me-down kind of, okay, you guys need to do this kind of thing? Because like, the collaboration in real time is a challenge, or unless, I guess I'll be curious to know if there is the ability for Ninja Van to actually do collaboration, which is also asynchronous.
Vietnam and Indonesia has a 1 hour time difference between us, like the 1 hour behind Singapore, Malaysia. So like in that sense, the time zones are pretty much okay. It's not much big of a difference. The bigger issue is the Palestine team where they're like 5 hours behind Singapore, Malaysia time, right? So yeah, I must say that that gap is significant enough that it does cause challenge around this kind of area you just mentioned. So yeah, it's not ideal. It's definitely a trade-off. And we try to make sure that we have rituals and sort of like just call them rituals that help ensure that these teams are properly kept up to date with the information they need in order to do an effective job. It's not ideal. I totally agree. But like it's a trade-off that we have to make in order to like keep ourselves sufficiently powered with teams who can deliver the work for us.
Okay. Thanks for really being very open with your sharing as well. Because for me, I think I've had experience with working with where the product manager is in one location and then the development teams are in a different location, and also had the multi-development locations with different time zones, and both happen at different times of our era. But I still felt like that challenge was never really sufficiently solved, right? And that's always a challenge. So for me, remote is not so much of a big issue. I think I am, because I embraced remote even pre-COVID, and I felt that there was value there. But the one that even through COVID that I really struggled was when it was remote and the significant time difference, like you said, where it's like a 5 hour, 6 hour difference, or in my case, some of them were like 15 hours or 12 hours, right? It just really sucked to to put it frankly, to collaborate.
Yeah.
And it always came at a very high cost to either one side. Somebody or some team had to really sacrifice and stay up late and eat into your the time that you're supposed to be like mentally recharging, kind of thing. So I was just very curious to know, since you mentioned Palestine and potentially India in the future as well.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like, I think even when I was working at Seek and we had teams in Australia, right? Australia is also not too far away. I think 2 or 3 hours. Yeah, depending on like daylight savings. I can't believe daylight savings is a thing, still a thing. Like, it's so ridiculous. Anyway,
I know, right?
so like even just that 2 or 3 hours also sort of like impact our calendars, where I had to make sure that I made my mornings free for meetings with Australia, and then most of the local meetings and stuff we sort of plan after lunch, kind of thing. I think ultimately it's a mindset thing, right? It's really making sure everyone has empathy for the other side wherever they are, right? And trying to accommodate, because like if you're selfish and just want to optimize for your own needs, it's gonna be very hard for everyone else. So like, as long as everyone's really open to like trying to help the other side, I think that's where it really helps. Whether it's just making time in your calendar for different hours, or being willing to once in a while work late or work early, right? Or putting the extra effort to do documentation, so that there's a resource that the other teams are able to access to sort of understand if they need help. That really helps lah. So I think ultimately trying to build that kind of mindset and empathy in the teams to sort of like understand, okay, we're all a team, we have to help each other out, and this is the challenge, but we're going to work through it anyway. That really helps if everyone's sort of on board and yeah, is committed towards trying to help each other.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's switch tracks a little bit. Still with your time at Ninja Van, right? Because good stuff all coming up. So as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, you actually moved from Malaysia to Singapore to take up your role in Ninja Van. I mean, we'll have the separate conversation off air around how you've been a traitor and all that, but on this call, we'll talk about, what did you have to change? Sorry, that should be the second question. What did you find different about the product scene in Singapore versus in Malaysia in a professional setting? So let's not talk about the entire ecosystem first. Let's talk about like what you saw when you went to Ninja Van versus what you'd seen in your other roles, which were mainly in Malaysia, even though they had a multiple location presence.
I mean, I can't compare Ninja Van to Seek, because Seek is like a donkey years old company. They have had so much time, and they're so mature as an organization, right? So if I had to compare a company, perhaps if I have to compare, maybe I'll compare. Yeah, I wouldn't say I worked in a company in Malaysia that's of like the same sort of age and size as Ninja Van. I would say that if I had to just compare against Seek, without any better comparison, Ninja Van definitely is a lot less structured compared to Seek, and why is because they are trying to organize around bias for action, right? The difference between working at Seek and here is that at Seek, to make any decision, you have to sort of like go through multiple rounds of analysis and discussions with leaders and getting alignment and then before we make a first move kind of thing. Whereas here, if a certain decision drags even for more than a day or so, people get annoyed, like, hey, can you please just decide now and move, please? Like, we're wasting time, right? So there's a lot stronger bias for action, which I really, really appreciate and enjoy even because like that's where you get to see things moving, right? So one of the first immediate things I would say is that the bias for action here is a lot stronger, right? From a practices point of view, I would say that definitely not as mature as Seek, right? Because like the current chief product officer of the company is this guy called Bosian, and he's one of the co-founders, the three co-founders of the company, and he's not really product manager by profession or by background, right? He's just an entrepreneur just trying to get things right. So he does anything. He was previously chief operating officer, and then when this gap happened, he sort of stepped in this role. So he's doing what we all sort of do when we're not really sure, and we read up on the internet what are the best practices and try to implement it with the team and see what really works. So a lot of testing and learning, right? So the state that we're in right now, I would say, is a state where we started to really get really prioritize having data both qualitative and quantitative, right? There's a strong focus on it right now. We have a research team that does qualitative strategic research. We have implemented product analytics tools. In fact, just I think 3 months ago, we fully rolled out mixed panel across most of our product suite. So now the PMs and PDs have a lot more deep, in-depth sort of like understanding of customer behavior that they had previously. We've also implemented OKRs now, something that was just starting when I joined the company, and we've now definitely crystallized that a lot more as a practice. So definitely, I would say in general, the practice wasn't as mature as Seek, but the difference I would say is definitely a stronger bias for action, and also the team is a lot younger. And they are, because they're younger, I think they're a lot more curious to learn, and they're very happy to ask questions and get guidance. And as a result, they're actually a very pleasant bunch to work with. Not a lot of snobs. You know what I mean? Like I don't know whether you feel this or not, but like in certain organizations that are a bit more mature, you get some product or designer snobs where they think of like product management or design is king shit, right? And the rest of the business don't know. And you know, the way they speak and behave, sometimes I'm like, oh crap, please, you know. The business teams have gotten to where they are today for a reason, right? They're not just luckily sort of fell there. So they have credentials behind them, and they know the shit as well. So you have to give them props and want to partner and collaborate with them, you know, to solve problems together, right? So I would say that there's a lot, there's snobberish kind of behavior. There's a lot less in the company, which I really appreciate as well. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose. Okay, so two points that I wanted to sort of I at least in my head now is 2 points lah. Hopefully I remember both by the time I finish. But I guess the first one is, you know, I think the size of the organization has something to do with it, right? Seek is this behemoth, which, like you say, it's been around for a really long time, has made really, really good revenues over the years, which has allowed them to really, you know, be like almost like Thanos, right? Just come in and, you know, or Hulk and come in and smash everything. But then I guess the second part is also, I just wanted to point out something that you said that I think is really, really true, where you said there was certain people in the organization who felt as if, you know, the other functions within the organization didn't get it, right? And I think for anyone who's listening, I think this part is super crucial. The sites who are, you know, the other departments or company are teams who are not product or engineering or tech in general, they're not useless, or they're not, and more importantly, they're not the enemy. You know, I think a lot of times I hear this undertone of, you know, there's a lot of resentment to, oh, we're doing this because the business always says so, you know, this team, you know, and we have to understand that this is product management is like a tango, it's like a dance. It's not it's not a zero-sum game where it's either I win or business wins, or my team wins or business wins, right? Because ultimately, if revenue is not coming in, right, we have nothing to speak of. And while, product metrics and everything are fantastic, I'm not downplaying that. Ultimately, the product has to be able to generate revenue, which is, the core the core mandate of the business team. So obviously they're going to push harder when things are bad and all that. So really the key is drive for collaboration, which is something that you mentioned as well. Because I just feel like somehow maybe it's just the changing of the times, given how popular product and engineering functions are. You're right, I do feel a little bit of that, I don't know what is snobbery or what it is lah, but it's this weird mindset where we are the center of the universe. I mean, we are. I'll definitely vouch for us being important, but yeah, we're still a part of the wheel, or the cogs that make the wheel turn. Yeah, so I just wanted to call that out. But to back to what my first observation of usually unavoidable when your team gets bigger, you know how do you at NinjaVan make sure that as you mature the structure and the processes and the practices of the product team, that you avoid the pitfalls of what you've seen at Seek? You're taking like 4 or 5 sessions just to make a decision and keep that bias for action.
Yeah. I would say it wouldn't be easy, right? As teams grow, that's gonna very easily happen. I think having a strong culture and having solid principles will help, right? And this is what I've been trying to do for the team, where like establishing, I'm in the midst of sort of trying to put together like a product playbook in a sense that sort of helps the team have a guideline. Like, and what I tell the team is that this is a guideline for you to refer to if you have no idea, or just want some examples to sort of like help you get on, right? But it's not in any sense a Bible that you go to and you must follow step by step kind of shit. And I'm hoping that this helps them become more autonomous in a way that they just can sort of like have resources they can go to and use that to help decide things without needing the leaders to sort of give input. We also, I think the leaders playing a role in just communicating, that like we're okay with you all to decide and make mistakes. Just don't make the same mistakes many, many times, right? That's very, very important, right? And making sure that they feel that, okay, I have the space and I have support to go and try things and learn from them, right? The other part of it is making sure that they have also collaborated enough with the business so that they understand all the risks as well that we're going to take with trying this idea, right? So stakeholder management, risk mitigation, they're all very typical product management type of techniques, right? And I'm hoping that if they can leverage those techniques well, they should be able to sort of run their own show and not rely a lot on the leaders to decide for them what to be done, right? It works to some extent. There are some teams that are a lot more confident, a bit more senior people, and they're willing to run. There are some teams that are a bit more uncertain and they will want more guidance and they constantly come to you for help. But I guess that's where the coaching comes in, right? You have to really ask the right questions, help them figure things out by themselves. And this is something that I've also had to learn very, very, had to learn a lot to do well, right? Trying to not call out a problem or a mistake very obviously and ask questions till they sort of come to it themselves and have that be something that sticks with them and they understand the sort of like principles and concepts rather than giving them the right answer that helps them at the one time but not longer term. It's definitely something that I've had to really build up as a skill as a product leader. That is really, really hard, and I continue to learn today. But yeah, really, I think it's trying to ensure that I'm not the bottleneck, or the leaders are not bottleneck for decisions, right? And the sort of principle is clear that we want teams to run by themselves, and providing them the sort of structure and resources that enable them to do that as much as possible.
Okay. Yep, yep. So let's now again, change track a little bit, because I think where you've gone into is, I think, quite a nice space to jump in as well, right? Which is, the product management practices and leadership in general. I guess first question, picking up where you left off, is when you joined Ninja Van as the director of product, right? So sorry. Let me give some interesting nuggets here, right? So Eric is would you be considered the spiritual successor to the previous head of product? I mean, in between Boxen taking over the CPO role, right? So there would be a direct line from Ritz to him, right? And Ritz was the first guest on this show. And he also worked under Ken Chin in Seek Asia. And Ken was, I think, guest number 3. So you can see that I just wanted to draw the lines here a little bit, because you'll find over time the product management is really, really small, and it's very, very interesting about how over time, these connections form. So yeah, it was something that I think I wanted to call that out. And just by doing that, I totally lost my train of thought about the question I was going to ask you.
You want to ask me about the practices, I think.
Oh, yes, yeah. Correct. Sorry. Yeah, what I was going to ask was, when you took the leadership role in Ninja Van, right? What were the things that you needed to do to set yourself up for success? Grant, I mean, and the context here is that, in F-Secure, in Seek, you were the leaders, you were one of the leaders, but you were not, for lack of a better word, top of the food chain, right? Like in Ninja Van, literally, you answer only to the CPO, who's actually the co-founder. So in my book and in my view, you are the practice lead lah, and the leadership head of Ninja Van. So what did you have to sort of do in order to set yourself up for success?
At Ninja Van, I would say your actions is definitely the thing that speaks loudest, right? What you're able to achieve and do, what you're able to show in terms of your ability to influence others as well. So, maybe I would say the most important thing that I did was, first off, sort of following also the sort of cultural thing that Ninja Van has, is really building relationships. So really spending a lot of time with stakeholders. The more key ones you have to identify, of course, find the right ones and really identify them, and spend a lot of time with them to really understand what are the current problems that they see, and how potentially you guys can collaborate together to solve those problems. And once they start to see that you get it, right, just from what you say, they get it. They start to have to build trust, right, and also build shared understanding on, like, okay, I think we're all on the same page in terms of like how we think about principles and stuff like that, and that allows us to work together more easily. So definitely, I would say that's the first one.
Yep.
Second one then is, okay, you talk a lot of talk with them about like what you want to do. You must walk the talk as well, right? So making sure that you execute well with your teams on delivering what you promised to the business, right? So this one was really challenging for me, because one of the high priority product areas that I was sort of like assigned to look at was really, really challenging, and the whole product team actually left due to various reasons. Like I won't want to go to. I'll talk to you after the show, maybe.
now you're just teasing the rest who are listening, but I understand.
Yeah. So really trying to rebuild that team and create a plan. I wouldn't say it's a strategy yet, but like at least a very clear plan for how this product will manifest and solve the problems that we're looking to solve. I think to help give them the confidence, okay, this is what I needed, this is what I see will happen and when, kind of thing. Of course, the roadmap thing is a thing that we've discussed before as well. Like, it's not something that we can 100% say will happen when, but at least it's a sort of like a view that we can provide to the business team, so they can sort of start to imagine what to expect when. So doing that was also very important to make sure that you execute well. So that was with stakeholders, and the third part is getting the team on board, right? Because I'm this nobody from Malaysia that came in And then I don't know whether there's a Singapore Malaysian bias, like why should a Malaysian person come and teach us anything, right? Um, it was really trying to make sure that I could present myself well to them and build trust with them through providing good support, right? I wouldn't say that the team was not doing well, right? But making sure that I was able to be available for them to help them through things that they wanted help with, right? So some of the structures that I had to put in place, the simplest one was I created office hours. So 1 hour a week in my calendar, I sort of block out for anyone in the product team to just jump into the call with me and just talk to me about anything, right? And the I've told them that this is completely unstructured. You don't have to bring like a very clear problem. Sometimes people don't even know what the problem kind of thing. You can just jump in and we can break it down and talk about it and then problem solve together if there's time. And that's actually been going quite well. I was initially worried that I'll put this call on my calendar and then no one's going to show up. I'm going to be, like really embarrassed lah, that it's not working out. But actually, it's worked out pretty well. I'm glad to say that that the team has been consistently leveraging that time with me, and it's given me a lot of fulfillment to know that I can help people solve their problems. Another thing I put in place was we were still trying to figure out like the clear tenets of the product strategy for Japan, but coming in, I don't not wanting like shake up everything and start to do a major planning around strategy and do a lot of research kind of shit. I want to make sure that there's still clear priority and clarity for the team on what to focus on. So we established something called the product bets, right? And these were the 4 or 5 areas that we would clearly prioritize across any other initiative in the business, and also provide more visibility for as well with stakeholders. And that seems to have worked well. So by doing this kind of things, I think it is help people see that, okay, this guy does know what he's talking about. And it's really helped to build that trust in a way. And so finally, with my boss, I would say, like from him seeing how I've worked with stakeholders and with the team, I think that's really helped him feel a lot more comfortable that things will be okay, right? Like if things were sort of like really getting really messy, the team would complaining like, I don't know what he's talking about. Seriously, like this guy is rambling and he's talking nonsense. I think I'll be in deep shit. But like luckily that's not happened, and that's really helped to solidify my position in the company. 8 months in, I would say. So still relatively new. I'm still learning a lot about the business every day. But yeah, it's been a really good run so far.
Yeah. Again, want to nitpick on one of the things that you said, just to zoom in and understand more, right? So you're saying that one of the things that you did was to really understand the pains of the business, especially from outside of the product view, right? Because again, sometimes when you're so deep into the product minefield, right, you kind of lose some objectivity and some proper understanding of the whole landscape. But one of the things that usually happens, and I say usually is because I've experienced this, and I know a few people I've spoken to, whether it's podcasts or just regular chats, is the disparity between what comes out of those discussions, right? Because you're going to be listening to their pain points, and from what I observe, right, business pain points tends to usually be more in the now, and in the present, and less about what do we want to 12 months, 24 months, or in the future, right? So it's really solving a problem for the now. And the thing that usually causes friction is when they see either your roadmap or your bets or whatever. I'm like, hey, wait, but this doesn't solve my problem, right? I have this problem. You told me that, yeah, you understand, right? But now suddenly you come up with this explanation format, and my problem is like down there somewhere in the KIV or in the black hole of backlog. So how do you deal with that?
So like what one is interesting about Ninja Van is that they've really tried very hard to keep an entrepreneurial spirit or ways of working in the company. So I would say the company is split between 2 parts. One part, which is the core last mile express logistics business for e-commerce, right? And the other part, which is what we call logistics plus, and they mostly are the new business units that are trying to capture value in adjacent sort of like sectors or industries. Yeah. So how they started up those new businesses was that they actually hired the head of business, give them a budget and say, hey, this is how much money you have to spend. Go hire your team, buy whatever you need, prove to us the models, your service is going to work, it's going to be profitable. So because that was the approach, they had to be really smart on how they spend the money. Like it's a mini startup within the startup itself, right? And they felt the pain of having to build software or just implement services, even if it's through a SaaS, right? Configuring it and everything. So a lot of the people in the business now understand the pains of trying to deliver software quickly, accurately, and the pitfalls of you think this is going to be the solution, but when you do it, you see actually no, it's not. You have to do more research and better understand the problem space before you so jump into it. So I would say a lot of them really understand already the value of product and tech and how it can help complement their side of the business. The struggle is then trying to help them more objectively figure out priority, right? Because and as we know, like we try to make priority as objective as possible, but it's never objective, right? It's freaking bullshit. It's some level someone is trying to manipulate the metrics or impact or kind of shit to make something more high priority, right? So it's really trying to help facilitate that conversation between stakeholders, product, and other people on what do we think has the highest chance of delivering the most value right now that will give us the biggest advantage in the market, right? And those are really hard conversations. But what I found is that if we're inclusive enough to include them at the right time, to have them understand the reasons behind why certain things got prioritized. It's not just like some a roadmap that's fed to them. Okay, this is what we're going to do. They're part of the planning process. They're a lot more likely to be supportive and actually tell you, okay, actually this one I can deprioritize lah. This one I think is more important. They're more willing to tell you if you included them. So my approach has always has been to try to keep them more inclusive, and so that they feel a lot more bought into those kind of decisions that are made priority wise and stuff. So far it's been okay. Like I wouldn't say it's 100% clean. There are always certain ones that people are really frustrated with. But that's just the nature of the role, I would say. Like I've not been in a role where people have said, oh, your priority is perfect, or product and tech is moving fast enough, right? That's never going to happen.
Yeah, they're never going to say that.
Exactly. So it's really trying to pick your battles and making sure that they feel contented enough with what's been decided. Yeah.
Okay, so to try and distill down what you just said, right? Your approach is collaborate with them even at the planning stage. So, or are you saying that you've got your problem or opportunity areas, and then they come in to collaborate with the solution? That part wasn't very clear for me.
Okay, so like I view it as two different tracks of work, right? Yes. One is the planning kind of track, and the other one is the execution track, right? So the
strategic one is the more tactical.
Exactly, right? So the planning one is something that I'm pushing my PMs to always spend time on and be more in the future, because the engineering team, the engineering manager, the designers, they're more in the execution, right? Yes, and they already are sort of pinging you with questions and stuff, even stakeholders on a day-to-day basis. So if you don't focus as a PM, if you don't focus on the longer term, no one is going to focus there, right? So you need to at least have your head at least 2 years in the future, kind of thinking about where this is going. And if you don't know where, it's fine, right? You just have to do the things, do the activities that will help you to figure that out. So like it's the research, it's the looking at data, it's reading up articles about trends, right? So that's the two tracks of work. So like definitely with the planning track, that's a bit more strategic, involve the business teams to sort of have them understand where your mind is at in terms of like how you're thinking about the future. The details of the execution, also on certain parts that are important, include them as well. Also include them in the review when there's something to share in terms of a design or mock-up or like the actual build. Have internal UATs if you need to like have them try out the feature before we go live, right? Collaborate with them on go-to-market plans. How do we launch? Do we launch as a test? split test or like some percentage of the market or whatever it is, right? So definitely many areas for collaboration.
Yeah.
But like I would say distinctly would be one track, which is the planning one, which I think the PMs need to lead more. And then the execution ones, I would actually prefer if the design and even the tech lead sort of tries to lead at times in terms of the discussion, because those are the details that they need to sort of capture in order to do the execution well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Nice. I have one last question for you with regards to product management practices and leadership. Right, is an area which I think is coming up a lot more, especially in light of COVID and us coming out of COVID, and this is the discussion around product management or product managers' mental health. Right. Earlier in the call, we mentioned, or rather you mentioned, that your preferred mode is that the product manager sort of also takes in the responsibilities of a PO, and one of the results of that is that you get very busy PMs. Now, I'm not talking about busy work which doesn't achieve stuff. I'm saying that I think a lot of PMs are doing a lot of hard work, putting in the hard miles to really show impact. But it's also a very challenging role where burnout is real. Where if you don't really know how to manage your time and your mental space, right? I've seen PMs break down as well. How do you handle that challenge? Well, maybe it's at Ninja maybe it's at Seek, I don't know. But how do you, more specifically, not for yourself, but for your team? Because this is where I think it's not many product leaders talk about this. How do you build either mental resilience or look out for the mental health of your PM team?
Yeah, it's definitely an area that I've also felt as well. Previously, in my previous role, I think, and this is a personal experience, like when COVID hit, right? We all switched to working from home, and suddenly your home was your office as well. And the lines between work and your normal personal life blurred. I think previously, when I was at Seek, when I was working at office, when it hit 5:30 p.m., laptop shut down, leave office. I think I even left my laptop at the office and went home.
Wow.
But after,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I know. Like, so one of the things I have to give Seek kudos for is their ability to provide a good environment for and really provide good what should I say, good benefits for the employees to take care of themselves, right? So the sort of principle always at Seek is that take care of yourself first, right? Yourself and family, work can come later. Just talk to your manager, don't worry about it, kind of thing. So, but after COVID hit, right, the lines blurred for me, and being kind of person I am, I think I sort of also probably bit off more than I can chew. I was working nights, after I put my kid to bed and stuff like that, and definitely I felt also that burnout after a while, and just had to tell myself, you know what, this is bad, I'm going to stop. Consciously, like, tell myself that, okay, these things will have to wait, right? Communicate with my team or whoever, my bosses, whatever it is, that this will be done later, right? And yeah, just give myself time. So I definitely recognize that this is an area that we have to be aware of and actively do things to sort of like help our teams as well. But the first thing I always tell my teams in terms of like helping them have space is to just block your calendar, right? Because if you don't block your calendar for things for yourself, people's going to
block it for you.
Meetings. Yeah, right. So why do you prioritize people's own requests for your time, right? And you don't prioritize your own time, right? So you should prioritize your own time first and foremost, because it's for you, and hopefully you know what's best for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's blocking out lunch, I told them, go and block out your lunchtime. Don't let people book meetings in your lunchtime, right? So you have time to chill, have a meal, feel contented, right? Have a coffee, come back to work, feeling more refreshed. There's no point trying to work when you're hungry. You know what I mean? Like, people, I just can't understand people who are willing to work through that, right? And say that, oh, it's me being committed. No, it's not. Like, you're hurting yourself and the business, right? Because you're not going to be healthy. Take the time to take care of yourself first. That's so important. And not just for your lunch, like even for your work, right? So if you need quiet time to do your planning, quiet time to look at doing requirements or whatever, right? Block it in your calendar. Otherwise, people will stuff your calendar with shit, and then you can't have time for anything. So that's the first thing I always tell my team: make sure that you make time for yourself, prioritize yourself over other people. Second thing I think is something that comes very naturally in Japan, which is that social element, right? So making sure in the evenings, take a break, come down, have a beer, let's talk about stuff. If you need to unload, just unload, right? It helps to just get things off your chest sometimes, just to talk to someone about it. And that's definitely be something that I feel works for people to like really be able to just disconnect and even seeing the leaders tell you that, you know, this is something that is okay. We're not going to look at this as slacking off, right? You've worked enough. Let's take a chill for a moment and talk about stuff over a beer. I think that really helps. The third thing which I found that also helps is giving work meaning, right? I think people tend to get really frustrated with work at times when they feel like their work is not going anywhere, and then they're just working at something that doesn't really have any sort of like good outcome. Making sure that the work also energizes them, I think also helps a lot in reducing that feeling that this is you know that burnout kind of feeling. I know it may lead to more work. So for point number 3, also refer to point number 1 and number 2 as well, in terms of like making time for yourself and stuff. But like I feel like making sure that the team feels that they are doing something meaningful and are working towards things which are very impactful for the business, even people, right? Helping people in general have a better life, reduces that feeling of like, oh, you know, I don't want to do this. And it just helps mentally, you feel happy about the work you're doing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think very poignant points, right? And maybe, you know, I'm gonna have to circle back to this because I think that, like I said, I'm seeing more and more, not just PMs, but you know, more and more people in general talk about mental health, but especially within the product space, or at least in Southeast Asia. I don't really hear much about it. We're still talking about remote work, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, the mental health aspect even of remote work is really critical. And I think I really picked up on that point where you mentioned, right, you know, when you start working from home, your home is your office and your office is your home, the lines get really blurred, and it's tough. So yeah, I would, to me, I would actually say that for those who are in a remote environment and you are working in your home, I think I would personally recommend you start drawing like literally physical lines or boundaries lah, between what is your work area and what is your home area. So like for me, I won't say never lah, but I really try really hard to never bring my laptop into the room where I sleep. So like, you know, this is my safe space. I go in to rest, I go in to sleep. And then, you know, I have a separate room converted from what was supposed to be the guest room, which is no longer a guest room, where I do all my work. And that's where even for my kids, we're like, okay, daddy is in his working room. And then when I come out, it's like, okay, you know, this is the boundary. I think that for me has really helped to sort of, it's like Pavlov experiments, right? You condition yourself to think that once you walk out, you kind of shut off from that, and then when you go back in, you put your work hat back on, you know. So but I mean, yeah, I think thanks for sharing about, you know, how to make sure of taking care of yourself first, you know, booking time for yourself. I think that's super important. And
Actually, on what you mentioned, right? I remember listening to a podcast or something about mental health, and they were sort of calling out what you just described, right, as a transition from work to your personal sort of like space. I think, and what they were calling out was that previously when we used to work in the office, right, the drive home, the commute home was the way to disconnect between the work and our personal life. But when remote work happened, that line, that ritual disappeared. So that sort of like prevented people from disconnecting from work. So like even though they're at home, they may have left the laptop, but they're still thinking about work because they've not really had that ritual to separate. So one of the things they suggested was to choose a ritual that you can do after your work is done at home to disconnect. Either it's like walking your dog or doing some gardening or doing some exercise or whatever it is, right? So that your body sort of like recognizes the signals that, you know, oh, this is me moving away from work and starting to relax, right? And that will help sort of like unblock your mind and relax a bit more. So I think what you do is probably very, very similar to what that describes.
Yeah, yeah. And if you guys want to understand a bit more about how you can block your calendar time, I remember Dian Rosanti, who's I think she's now VP of product at GoTo or slash, what used to be Gojek. She did this talk for Mind the Product, which she actually showed us a screenshot of her calendar where she even books out time for her to go and bathe kind of thing. I thought that was really, really, I mean, it was funny because of the example that she used. And her context was that she was still based in the Bay and she was working with the Indonesian team. So time differences meant that she really had to block out even time that, don't bother me, I'm bathing here. But the thought process around how she did it, I thought was really great. If I find it, I'll put it in the description links somewhere. But if not, go Google it yourself. Right, we're all big boys and big girls. Okay. Let's go to the last part of the show, which is my favorite part, which is the song. So yeah, what I usually always say is this curveball request to all my guests is to get them to choose a song. Because I don't know, sometimes songs seem to either reflect your state of mind, reflect your musical preference, reflect what you're trying to project. I don't know. So, yeah, Eric, why don't you tell us what song you chose and a little bit of why you chose that song?
So I chose a song called Chelsea Smile by this band called Bring Me the Horizon. It's a metal band, so I'm a bit of a metalhead from my younger years, and it's just sort of carried over into now. Why I chose this song was because it's my go-to song for getting hyped, right? And I actually listen to this song quite frequently on my commute to work because I want to get hyped before I start work. So like that sort of really helps to pump me up and get in that right free state of mind to be able to start work feeling really energized. So given this show was about like my job, I thought like it's a good choice to like sort of share. And I didn't realize that Colin was going to include a YouTube link to the song as well. And when I was watching the video earlier, he shared, I was like, shit, actually, this doesn't portray me very well because it's a video of a party of young kids, sort of like probably not doing very nice things. Clearly, I've not watched that video in a long time, so I didn't realize that content when I sort of like suggested it. But like, you know what the hell, uncensored, right?
Yeah. So the interesting anecdote, right? So what I do with my team is every week when we have our weekly product team meetings, right, I always start with a little short icebreaker game, right, just to get people disconnect from whatever they were doing. And so one of the games that I played was everyone had to choose a line from a song, and then share it with the rest of the why they did. And so the song that I chose actually also came from Bring Me the Horizon. But I chose Throne instead of Chelsea. They're much. I mean, Throne was much later. And the reason was because I thought the lyrics really, how to say it. It really made me feel like that was my job, right? Because that line in the song says, "You can throw me to the wolves. Tomorrow I will come back, leader of the whole pack." So that song gets me super hyped, right? Especially when things are going hard or when I really need a pick me up, right?
Yeah.
I feel that when he gets to the chorus, when he starts screaming that out, it's like, oh, it's like, yes, whatever, throw your worst at me, and I'm gonna come back and do it. So I thought it was very, very ironic when you told me, oh, I chose to bring it on. I said, oh, this is really cool. So
Nice one.
Okay. Yeah. So we're at the end, Eric. As usual, I tell all my guests that I always wish we had more time because once we start going down that rabbit hole, then you realize that there's so much more. So yeah, maybe one day I'll do a part 2 with every single guest that I've done. I don't know. But for now, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to share before we close?
Yeah, like I feel we're all, once again, I'm going to use this word again. We're all really lucky to be living in this time, right, where technology is so amazing. It's enabled us to be so much more than we could have been way back when. So I hope like all of you listening, if you are product managers, designers, engineers, you sort of like also take advantage of this opportunity to really do some amazing stuff. And it's so great that this scene has come to Southeast Asia now, and we have this opportunity to do this kind of work that used to be only more popular in the Western countries, right? So, if you're doing this, feel fortunate, feel happy that you're in this position. That's really cool, and think about how you can create things that make the world a better place. It's going to be really amazing to see all the things that you do. You surprise yourself, and this is what has happened to me as well. So I'm still really happy to be doing this job. So many more years later, not saying how many.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you so much, Eric, for being on the show, being, super honest, super candid, super open, as usual, always a very enjoyable conversation. And just to echo what Eric has said, like we are very, very fortunate. And I echo his thoughts directly. Every day, actually, I feel very fortunate that I'm in a product management role. My job is to make things better. And that so many years later, right? Honestly, I still get the rush when we launch something new and you get the feedback that, oh my gosh, this has solved the problem. That feeling is unparalleled for me, right? And I would say, don't take it for granted. I think sometimes we we tend to almost get into this line where we're feeling a little bit entitled, and it's not. I think we have to work very hard for what we do, and don't take that for granted, because who knows, maybe 1 year from now there'll be another sexier role, or suddenly we're not as important anymore. But yeah, make sure don't feel like what you're doing is always going to be there, and always cherish the fact that we are very fortunate to be able to do what we do. All right, thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching. If you, like I said, right, if you don't remember, yeah, subscribe, and then the notification bell, follow, all the standard stuff lah, huh? Right, and I'll see you guys at the next show. Have a good weekend, have a good weekday. I don't know, whatever day that you're watching this or hearing this. Have a good one. Bye bye.